The first time I ever ate anything, I was almost small. I had only 2 toes. They told me more would come later. Every year, my grandfather would cut a new toe from the shoe tree with the secateurs. He cut a rosebud, which he would then delicately sew onto me for hours. I must say, I was happier about him looking after me than about growing up. When finally my feet were close to completion, I was able to begin some movement. And when I saw myself in the mirror, I discovered a beautiful grandmother with no scaffolding. Sparkling with hope, my hair blown back by the big ventilators at the giant elephants.
I buzz mauve clouds out the paperwork Chicago. It beat round disc plates blues.
That the giant elephants used to move the clouds into Chicago factories, where they would transform them into flattened slices of the blues that people would place onto record players.
Balloons, Carval track, big mouse tibbling skyrockets percut.
I was so proud and beautiful, like bunches of balloons sold at fun fairs that lift hippopotamuses up into the sky.
Unal dies de main, Kransur, Brett Benalances de Gumpiet.
One day, we made catapults with my grandfather's braces.
Si c'est nautat, c'est en musique de trunchir planète, bedouin si ferdigo univers.
Of course, we enjoyed knocking off the planets that hung suspended in the universe.
Persiflo, niet zezef, flotsgiete lancis, multumutgal inertic.
It created meteors that were propelled at the speed of 4.5 billion light years per hour, which then exploded billions of intergalactic planets. Poof!
Fanfleu, perfleshuk, agula patune mais voyer.
Lights and colors that we had never seen before flashed all over the place.
Samplubal, Uyonat, forbid sky forbid brasta, Valle del Mundo.
It has to be said that these pranks were completely forbidden. We had been told, do not mess with equilibrium.
Ula taco pamiet, mes, Mitch, c'est fichre Mitch, estraputir.
My girlfriends and I couldn't have cared less about equilibrium. Especially considering they hadn't sewn all our toes on yet.
Et plat faquette qui rappela toute des mains d'aldiurne et pétard joufflu du geste, histoire en perpète zésure.
And that we had to sit our arses on cliffs all day in front of all eternity.
Yet piet, bread shift nielo, charave, grand sourd.
Anyway, we had a map of the sky that we had picked from my grandfather's pocket.
Scribe, zo zésure.
We could read that for sure.
Puit, per coup de kekolsk, escribi mult peri, coulos acronir.
So, We aimed for all the areas that were of the please do not touch variety.
Et boum! Dégomme wesh!
And boom! One day we hit the target!
Rendir oui, pourri pif Solway track out the rough.
It created vibration like the explosions of several suns on the motorway.
Die bluff magnétique enfarouille à la relue à pour Airbats.
A magnetic field more vibrant than a multitude of oceans mixed together in a cocktail shaker.
Los color transparentante mundo.
The universe emitted a ray of transparent light.
Pulpuler tout s'éroule.
Everyone gathered round to watch the result.
Niasich, plötzlich.
Some had tears in their eyes.
Uyone se sentir no possible.
I can't begin to tell you how foolish we felt, like real fools.
Qual fago, bimbalete fuego fuego.
Then everybody left. We looked at one another. They came back later to pick us up and put us to bed because we couldn't walk.
Naked surf.
They said nothing.
Del Main. Krebstaber. Bernick del Gis. Plötzlich. Kitten. Parish. Achtim. Bla. Kuyuna. Futrav dans le placard.
The next day, though, we got a serious telling off. It went on all day. We felt really bad. They shouted and shouted how we were the worst of the worst.
Nach, blazer jeusich, consur betit, grutzer la pipe.
That night, as I lay crying under the blankets, my grandfather came. He sat, smoking his pipe.
Padanti lumi, che memoria doce a plafone. Nina picciun petiet, ne tu sedandie perlo percutate, los dinosaurs.
He spoke calmly. I remember the gentleness of his eyes floating up to the ceiling. Little one, you did not completely break the rock, but you have killed the dinosaurs.
Homo famo, no fito, sototeca.
It turned out that our pranks had created men and women.
Grutzifer, curur.
Years later, we finally learned to run.
Druski anian gdrinsesket Ephraim obserdush.
My best friend's brother's uncle released our trained cheetah, and it galloped around the stars, chasing comets.
Calvis stretch.
It sped around faster than light.
Nega kai chan chonye wang chai and chow yo shikayu.
And as it spectacularly skidded around corners, it sometimes banged its head against planets. Having lost its balance, it would spin off into space before falling flat, poof, onto large rocks.
Drenjain kersoar, randi klush, barushi supabi rabulbish, mahabut mulut khaybi.
A huge party was being prepared. Jumping rope and rebellious hopscotch games were underway, and as I turned my head towards the table, I noticed it.
La binette.
The fork!
Escoyi ijavlot, arbalestre qui traover.
The implement was huge and had apparently been sent from the sky like a javelin with the help of a crossbow.
Rabdig, a gig, cromimor.
The fork's prongs had pierced the huge thickness of the wooden table and had landed slap bang on a pig that had been nibbling on scraps there.
El Paulus Tabul.
The impact was a surprise to everyone.
Diskimpat flirtete babat, rauch.
We had never seen a projectile like this.
Monut, peka, das carbon pauvres et brisures biturzeb.
It was at this moment that hundreds of families threw handfuls of sulfur into the air. This produced lightning above us. Shards of disorganized light cracked like whips on the clouds.
Mauspompier, archipel iceberg der Azur à fugue bling.
An army of firefighters catapulted icebergs into the cosmos, and the whole thing made us dreamy with pleasure.
Ma compagnette, plaqué aïe, bic.
It was at this precise moment that my friend pinched my arm and pointed to the highlight of the event.
Kreuz ein Tisch.
We had a guest.
Ein Tisch para sein Sprung des Ösch.
A guest who had come from the other side of the plank wall.
Kleines Spiel mémoire, ne caquette ni respect.
Even within memory of a hippopotamus, no one could have conjured up the memory of a party that had smelled this good.
Ficine quelqu'un, est François Rabelais.
He was a huge giant, though smaller than us, and his name was Rabelais. First name, Francois.
Cook Granich Dimrish.
He headed straight for the kitchen and taught us some grandmother's recipes.
Grosse mosaille, grand gougier for farouche ante.
Saucepans larger than buses turned upside down were used as giant pâté terrines.
Saucisseurs à su soupe, si salfissé.
He poured tons of boiling water onto trees in order to uncover the roots that snaked away and were gathered up to make soup.
Mult erasi merzol pateke parakes kronzurit.
So many imaginary recipes entered into our young grandmother's memories.
Blanche, murzazot.
Finally, Rabelais returned to the wall.
Me kopam amiat. Amirish.
Despite being very young, my friends and I fell head over heels in love.
Zest brictus, korlov bet mer de la foire.
Clapped us in the head, and our hearts sank to the bottom of the sea and lay next to the rocks on the seabed.
And what? Corinze.
Right, and now I must to bed.
Demain sol negrosh azurze.
Tomorrow I see you again and say thank you for tonight, Limerick!
Blanco, Yonanish, Bitrish.
Come and join us tomorrow!